Trust God, dream big, work hard, and persevere. That's the personal mantra of Andrew Hawkins, taking you inside the world of sports tech and virtual reality, the president of Status Pro, right here at the Nasdaq MarketSite. Hello everyone, I'm Jabari Young, senior writer here at Forbes, and I'm at the Nasdaq MarketSite, and I'm joined by president of Status Pro, right? Say it right first.
Absolutely, you killed it.
Okay, great. I'm glad I said it. Good, man. Andrew Hawkins, man, thank you for joining me, my brother, at the Nasdaq MarketSite. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. This is a beautiful studio.
Thank you.
We're in Times Square. You can't beat this, man.
You can, man. Is this your first time at the Nasdaq?
This is my first time at the Nasdaq.
I love to hear that, man. You know, I'm glad I gave you the opportunity. So when
I
you're walking
appreciate
past
that.
New York, you say, yo, Forbes be okay. Forbes,
There
they
it
got us
is.
into the Nasdaq,
Absolutely.
man. So listen, I always start off with the theme of the month, and right now we're sitting in April's Financial Literacy Month. What's the biggest thing that you've learned in financial literacy, especially, you know, coming from where you come from, we're getting that later. What's the biggest thing you learned to date?
I think making sure you spend the proper amount of time to educate yourself.
Yeah.
I think what I would always tell young guys, and obviously I'm a former NFL player, and like as I was going through my career and I was trying to like figure out what the future looked like for myself post-playing career, is that it took so long for me to make it to the NFL. There are so many people that are involved in that process. It starts at a young age, your community, your family, obviously a lot of luck, but you spend so much time preparing yourself for this opportunity of a lifetime that the 1% of the 1% get. And then you're thrust with all this money that you might not have expected or you might not be prepared for. You should spend the ample amount of time educating yourself on what this means, because it took you a very, very long time to afford yourself the opportunity to make it. You would be doing yourself a disservice to not put that same kind of effort and tenacity into doing everything you can to keep it. Absolutely,
absolutely. Well, listen, you said it off the top, man. Played for the Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, and now an NFL analyst on ESPN, man. That transition from NFL on the field to the television side, man, what's that been like for you?
It's been very rewarding. I mean, I think everything we just talked about from a financial literacy standpoint, it was the same way that I put it in my post-playing career. You know, I had the benefit of early on not being a guy that had a lot of prospectuses for a professional, didn't get a lot of scouts, didn't get a lot of opportunities. And so by the time my NFL career did come around, I was like laser focused on making sure I was taking advantage of the opportunity, both on and off the field, and just preparing myself for what the transition was like. And I think, you know, to sit on this side of it, being here with Forbes, at the Nasdaq, at Times Square with Jabari, it's a blessing because, you know, through Status Pro and with my co-founder Troy and the amazing employees and team we have there, like I've been able to put myself in positions that being an athlete couldn't even put me in.
And I remember Troy, I know we got to get to you, man. I think we're going to have him at the Forbes Be Okay Summit. Hopefully y'all can have the Status Pro demo right down there in Atlanta in June, man. But listen, we spoke, Hawk, man, what was that, 2020, you know, and you put this on, you said, man, we got this company, and I was hype about it. And I said, well, I got to get inside, and y'all weren't ready to show it at that point. It was still in training. Y'all with some NFL teams. Lamar Jackson was going through it with the training session, man. It's good to see that, you know, it's now brought to fruition, because this game, right, in Status Pro, this allows you first-person mode to play as a quarterback. You had the eyes of the quarterback. I was in that game, Hawk, when we was down in your demo. Phenomenal game. So $20 million Series A that you guys raised in February 2024, right? Let's go inside a little bit. What are you guys doing with that money, and how are you going to expand Status Pro?
Yeah, we want to continue to make the product deeper. NFL Pro era, to your point, like this started as a nugget of a vision for Troy and I, and the whole idea was like, well, hey, how do we bring our own perspective to this industry? How do we democratize what we experience as athletes? Troy was a Division I quarterback. Obviously, I played in the NFL. And so to your point, when we talked 4 years ago, we had this vision, and it was a very hard process of getting people to see it. And it was like, hey, we're going to have to show and prove this. So as we've gone and done and released a product, and it's had great reception from the people that love sports games and have always wondered what it feels like to be the actual athlete on the field and between the lines. Now, with this $20 million round that we raised, led by Google Ventures, it allows us to deepen that product and also start to have the conversation of like, okay, what do other sports look like? Because that was always our mission. We started with football because that was our background. That's where we're subject matter experts. But it was always wanting to democratize any sport where there's an athlete. We want to put the fans who love that sport behind their eyes of their heroes. And so with this investment, it allows us to do that and continue just to scale and continue to just build fandom and user base one by one on a brand new platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, Google Ventures, other investors, your NFL brothers, right? Bobby Wagner, Myles Garrett, Cam Jordan, Minnesota Vikings owner Ziggy Wolf and his Wise Ventures, KB Partners, right? Keith Bankup, those guys in Chicago, phenomenal job that they're doing. Y'all estimate in that press release that the VR gaming market, right, virtual reality gaming market, because Status Pro and NFL Pro era the game, you need the Oculus or some other virtual reality glasses to play this, just to be sure. But you guys estimate that that market will be worth $53.4 billion by 2028 in the press release. When you hear that number, how do you guys figure, hey, we're going to get some of this market share?
Yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity for us. I mean, we were in this very early. Troy and I, we came together in around 2018. We officially founded this version of the company in 2020, but we had connected in 2016.
Yeah.
And we have been in VR, and we've seen the vision for this in 2015. And I remember when we first had our conversation, we talked about where we thought VR and AR would be in 10 years. Now, you can imagine back then, especially in this period where people were very, very skeptical of what that looked like for us. But we were both laser focused. And when you talk about what that market is, now you're seeing the biggest companies in tech, from the Metas to the Apples to the Googles and beyond, invest into the platform. And typically, when you have that kind of investment in unison, it's a little indicator of where the future is going.
Yeah, according to PitchBook, after this $20 million raise, post valuation $80 million for Status Pro. So that's up from $57 million. So I mean, you guys are getting up there, man.
Give and take. We don't get the official numbers, but
give and take. But give and take a little accurate. That's all we need to know. That's all we. What are you learning about scaling a business? Because again, man, I played this game. I have the Oculus. I'm in here. I play the boxing game sometimes, man, and I just find it very hard to put it on consistently.
Yeah.
I put it on my 10-year-old. She loves it. I've seen kids wear it in cars and in their house, and they love it. And I know the future is with them, right? But at the same time, how do you get people to put these things on now? Because you guys want people to play this game. You reported that about 44.1 minutes that people spent playing that game, NFL Pro era. About 1 million users that you guys said that you guys attracted. But what is it like scaling the business?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things in that, right? For number one, when you think about the product, for us, it's like, how do we continue to make people have to come back to the product and stay in the product and feel like they have the depth of new things inside our product? And that's how we're developing. I think what we've learned when you ask about scaling the business, there's a couple of things. Number one, it is having the creativity to say, hey, we cannot copy and paste from any other industry, any other platform. Console is not like this, mobile is not like this. And having the people in the mind with the curiosity as you're building the business to also think in that vein, like we're building the plane in the air. There is no one-to-one blueprint that shows, hey, this is what you do here. And so I think for us, as we've scaled and as we've gone through trial and error, tried different things and new things, that's been the resounding lesson for us, is that we have to go off our conviction. And now as it stands, we've been in this for years. We can't look to other companies or other platforms for the answers. Like, we are the de facto experts. And so that's number one. Number two is just as you build processes around a company, right? Because the more and more people that come into the company, the more there has to be a shared accountability. And so as we've gone through this, and I give all the praise to our team, because of those reasons. It's like, hey, we are operating without a playbook. And as we've done that, we've still done some very incredible things, and we have so many accolades that any company would be proud of. But the fact that they continue to push innovation is, I think, what inspires Troy and I to just stay down this road. So as we're scaling, we're doing our damnedest to make sure that that spirit of innovation and doing something new doesn't wane and we don't lose it as we get more and more investment and more people start to see the opportunity in XR.
Yeah, you talk about, scaling, you always come across things that you learn, both positive and negatives. Negative, what's been the biggest positive surprise now that you've learned being president of Status Pro?
I would say the biggest positive surprise would probably be that we understood that people have always wanted to be their heroes. We understood that, when you watch the game, because it started with us as kids, like that's how we became football players. We watched this game and we said, man, wouldn't it be cool if we had that opportunity? And so we knew fans would want that. But I think the biggest surprise is that what it's shown us as far as the NFL process and experience is concerned, there are so many things off the field that people also want to experience. And so as we're developing our game, those are the kind of things that are top of mind for us. And it also allows us to start to answer some of that question of, well, what does the depth look like? How do you get someone to continue to come back? How are you building experiences that people have never had, even beyond throwing a touchdown or running for a first down? And so the biggest surprise there has been the feedback and the data that we've seen around people having such an appetite for even things that on console, it might be passive. It might not be a big deal. But in our game, they're once in a lifetime moments that people never thought they would see from a perspective.
Yeah, and you got positive. What's the biggest negative surprise? Something maybe that Status Pro, NFL Pro, that you guys still have to work on.
I think figuring out what our cadence looks like, just as we unveil new things within the product. I would also say something I kind of alluded to is that, you're in video games. And I think the misconception is, okay, well, video games is a mature market, and there are a ton of opportunities and ways to continue to build user bases and experiences. But like I said, I think we attacked some of it in a way where we're like, hey, well, this is what's been done in the market, so let's do that. And I think what Troy and I have experienced, and our whole entire company, is that that's just not the case, right? And so I think we've learned from that. And to be able to learn and still have success is operating from a position of benefit, but it's still a lesson nonetheless that we understand that what's going to be best for us is something that we're not going to be able to go look for a comp for.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a learning period for us, and now it's created the excitement we have around this round and what's to come in the future.
Yeah, and you're at that Series A stage, you're leaving the venture, entering growth, so I'm assuming not profitable just yet?
Not yet. But I mean, we're getting, we've had a very, very successful, year and a half since launch. And in anything, you're kind of tied to what the market is. And I think we've beat the norms in the market in any climate, which I think is an encouraging thing for not only investors, for ourselves, as we're saying like, okay, yeah, we actually have something special here.
Yeah, well, when you look inside that company, right, I want to get flashback into a little bit of your background, right? You have to, I saw an Oculus, and that's the device I use, but Apple Vision Pro, I'm assuming you have to start to make a game for that particular platform. Have y'all started that yet?
I mean, for us, we were always device agnostic. We've had incredible partners. We've been able to partner with Sony PlayStation. We've been able to partner with Meta, who's been incredible. But now we have Google, who's an investor, and obviously, Apple is now a player in the headgear space. And so for us, it's like, well, we always want to make sure we are meeting the users where they are, right? So we're not locking into any specific place in a way where it's gonna block opportunity.
Yeah.
And Apple, we all have Apple products. We understand what they bring to the table. I think as the market matures, that even competitive headsets will also say the more players that are in the space, it lifts all tides.
Yeah, and obviously, listen, everybody can't afford a $4,000 Pro yet, but the Oculus obviously is way cheaper.
You can't with that suit. I see that suit. Somebody can afford it.
I know. Hey, man, let's flash back into your history. Talk about your background a little bit. You grew up in Johnston, PA. It's about 3 hours away from Philly, man. I grew up in North Philadelphia, so you're right there. Man. What was that like growing up down there?
It's a very small community, blue-collar community in the middle of Steeler country, so it's like how everybody's week is going depends on what the Pittsburgh Steelers do the previous Sunday. But it was amazing. I mean, for me, it's kind of instilled in me the work ethic that I have. And I think as I've been exposed to new things in my journey and in my career, that the thing that sets me apart in other spaces is that blue-collar mentality. So, football was king. And I think it set the pace for just what I've done. Is like anything I do in business, whatever I do in media, obviously as an athlete, it still centers on sports, and that's where I was developed at in Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
Did you always want to be an NFL player? Because your brother obviously was. He had a 10-year career, played in there, and obviously here you are looking up to him.
Yeah.
Did that alone spark you and say, hey, I want to be like Big Bro?
Absolutely. If he would have decided to be a truck driver, I would have been a truck driver.
Wow.
And I think but again, beyond the fact that football is such a influence where I'm from, I had somebody at my house that I was like, oh, I see what's possible. And his thing for me and any relative we have even behind me is that you can do this. I can show you that's possible, but also what are you going to do to push it forward? And so I think a lot of the things that I've been able to accomplish off the field, post-career, and even while I was playing is because I had somebody in my household essentially giving me answers to the test. Yeah. I got to see what worked. I got to see what didn't work. I got to see the best way to take advantage of things. I got to see what happened when you didn't. And so, I think anything that we're doing as a company, and me and myself specifically, is like, you want to help somebody else get a little further in their blueprint than you were when you started your journey.
Yeah, one of the reasons, man, I remember when we was talking back in 2020, when we talking about the platform, that really kind of struck me about your story is your come up. You weren't a first rounder, right? You didn't go the old traditional way of getting recruited there. You go to Toledo, have a standout career, up and downs, go through a tryout with the Browns, and then you end up on Michael Irvin's reality show, right? Fourth and long, right? I remember that like it was yesterday. And you're at you're with the scouts with the Lions, I believe, at that point. Where are you mentally with, hey, listen, the NFL may not have worked out. Scouting didn't work out, right? Michael Irvin's show didn't work out. Where are you at mentally during that space when you're trying to still fulfill this dream of getting to the league?
I would say I felt like a lunatic.
Wow.
Because it's tough when you're setting out on a journey and you're the only person that sees the finished product. And I'm not the biggest guy. I'm 5'7".
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of big college stats. There were no teams scouting me. I tried out for Arena League. I tried out for the CFL, and I couldn't get a contract. But I had this belief of, like, if I get put on a certain stage with these people that you are saying are the best, I know I can still shine. And so, you have to continue on with that process. And so everything I was doing, from scouting to being on this show with Michael Irvin, for me, were just kind of checkpoints on the journey to ultimately where I would go. And as I did get my NFL career going, those moments are what's helping me now in the Status Pro journey, because entrepreneurship is the exact same way. You have to sit there in venture capital calls and let them tell you why your company's going to fail. You have to hear them say that, hey, it all looks great, but it's too good to be true. And those are some of the same things I heard on my football journey. And Troy, who had a quest to be a Division I quarterback, his journey was similar. That's actually how we bonded in the first place. And so I think all these moments are accumulation. Me and Troy always say this is an accumulation of our life's work. And that's how you get to this point. And so going through that process, understanding, hey, you feel a certain way, but the thrill of victory on the other side, that you can point and say, okay, I wasn't the crazy one, all of you were. It's the kind of thing that keeps us going in the tough moments of entrepreneurship and the market when it does what it does, and people not seeing the vision for VR and sports specifically. Like, that thought process is where we kind of stay the course, because we say, hey, we've been here before, and our whole company takes on that mantra.
Yeah. When you take me back to 2016, right? Because after that point, you have the successful career, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, and then you're starting to pivot because you get a master's degree at Columbia, right? I love the good folks at Columbia University in business, and absolutely, and you guys pivot though, right? You meet Troy in 2016, and you pivot because in 2018 the company was called BikeCube Labs, and in NFLPA, One Team Collectives was backing it. But in 2019, 2020, right? That time we met, you guys pivoted, and then it became Status Pro. What were y'all learning, and what was the reason behind that?
I think there was a couple of things. I think when we thought about what the venture scale opportunity was, we knew, again, that fans had never had this last level of access. They can hear the players, they can talk to them directly, right? Like, and you go through the history of sports from television to radio. These are more access points for fans who love the sport. And you're able to listen on the radio, you're able to watch on television, you're able to do all these things that are giving you more and more access. And for us, as we had our training product and the NFL players would put the training product on, they would have fun in it. And I'm thinking, and Troy is thinking as well, he's like, look, if this is a training product, these guys are at work. And if they are having fun with something that they see more than anybody on planet Earth on a daily basis, imagine what the fans who love this, who have never seen it, are going to feel. And so as we kind of, distilled that and thought through that strategy, it was, well, how do we use this base, in ways to meet everybody where they are, from training to analysis to gamified ways for people to feel like they're the quarterback of their favorite team. And so that's where the quote unquote pivot, and I wouldn't even call it a pivot, I would just call it an evolution of the product and what we built, with the same thing in mind of like, hey, we are going to revolutionize sports in the way that everybody interacts with it. And I think as we continue to go and we have this new investment, that same mission is what we're kind of pushing on every single day with the product.
Yeah, how long did it take Lamar Jackson to convince him, right? Was it one conversation, two? Y'all had to call back? Did he take your call right away? Like, how long was that? I mean,
that process was Lamar Jackson, and I've said this on air when he was going through his contract, they're hard to negotiate with, hard to win a negotiation with because they're so smart.
Yeah.
And they understand the power of no, they understand like what they want, and they're okay with moving on. So in that process, Troy and I mean, we did everything we could to put ourselves in position, and kudos to Felicia, his manager, and Lamar, because they were one of the few and first people to see the vision of where we are now. When we had that conversation in 2020, we had talked to them a year prior to that, and you can imagine how hard it was to get people to see to the point that we're going to get in 2024. And Lamar and Felicia got it right away.
Yeah.
And I think that for us meant a lot, and it's built our relationship. And I think as we've continued to hit these milestones, it's only deepened our partnership. But it was not easy just because they're astute when it comes to business.
Yeah, man, most definitely. Listen, you have to be, right?
Yeah,
I mean, everybody
absolutely.
wants a good deal. Nobody wants to get robbed.
Yep.
But, you know, as we wrap up a little bit, man, you know, if you had to maybe give one sentence about to that entrepreneur about, you know, going from seed to Series A, because money's tight out here, Hawk. I don't know if you guys have been. It's tight. What would you tell them? What advice would you tell them about getting that capital, getting those looks from investors? Because you said it, they're telling you why your product isn't good.
Yep.
You got to convince them otherwise. What do you tell that investor? One sentence.
I would say be steadfast in your convictions. I mean, there's going to be a lot of conversations you have to have. It might take 300 conversations to get a yes, you know, and it's very much like the NFL draft process. All you need is one team.
Yeah.
All you need is one partner to see the vision, and you never know how that's going to come. And I think our relationship with Google Ventures, someone we met years ago, and I think honestly when we were raising, they weren't at the top of the mind of people we thought would come in right away, but they're Google for a reason. They understand what the future holds. And I think, yeah, for that entrepreneur, like your convictions is what's going to set the pace.
Yeah.
Don't change because of what the outside world and people who don't put nearly as much time, energy, and passion into your product, into the market that you're trying to conquer. You are the expert there. Hold on to it tight.
Yeah. Is it hard to get in the game space, man? Because I remember you had a quote, and it was one of the most interesting quotes I read. And it said, sports is a beautiful marriage that is guaranteed to end in divorce. I'm like, yo, that's real talk, right? Because sometimes you get around players, and it's like they're so full of, they don't know that, man, this is going to be over soon. And guess what? I'm the Grim Reaper because your business is going to fall down here. But is it hard to get in that space? Because I would imagine you coming from the NFL world, even though you're a player, those cats in Silicon Valley, they don't care. They want to know what your business model is, what the operating model is, and can the two exist?
No, that's a great point. I think, yes, to answer your question in one word, yes, it is hard. But I think for us, the beautiful part about being an athlete was that I could say all I want to say, Jabari, you could say what you want to say, and eventually we have to line up. And the proof is going to be in the pudding. You're going to have to guard me, or I'm going to have to guard you. You're going to have to stop me, or I'm going to have to stop you. And at the end of it, there's no more conversation after that, because we have real data and information that shows what the real is. And I think the hard part about going into video games or any business is that a lot of this is subjective. A lot of this is opinion that is not rooted in any true expertise of what's to come, because none of us know. And I think for us, it is hard, but the fact that we have that background has helped us, because every time we've been in those scenarios where, you know, people might not see it, we always say, hey, let's take a deep breath, let's go do it. And I think at every stage, we've just done it. And over time, we've had more and more believers come to the table, because now they have the game film to go back to and say, well, we told Status Pro that they wouldn't do it before, and 4 years later, here they are. You know?
Coming off of a Series A raise, $20 million in February. Get to some rapid reaction, man. In the sports tech world, I know you got to stay close because this is your industry now, right? It's your sector. Anything you watching that's interesting that people need to know? Like, hey, this is coming. Watch out.
Yeah, I would say the injection of AI into sports in a lot of ways is obviously going to change the game. And I just think in the ways, if I get specific to XR in the category we're in, I think we are looking at this from an entertainment perspective. I think there are so many ways that this is going to change the sports tech industry. And for us, being one of the first people in it, we just hope that we make sure we have a little footnote of like, hey, these are the guys that first went in a big way and are the reason why you have all these ancillary experiences that change the game of sports.
Yeah, absolutely. NFL draft coming up, man. Scare me a little bit, right? What's something that's going to happen that people probably not expecting?
Something going to happen.
Scare me. Come on, Hawk. Scare me, man.
I don't know, man. I feel like everyone knows there's a bunch of quarterbacks that are going to be taken.
Yeah.
There's going to be a bunch of wide receivers. This is an incredible class for wide receivers.
Not a good class for running backs, obviously, because the free agent market.
Honestly, there's never a good class for running backs, and I think that's the sad part about how the game changes, is because when you can show you can get value so late in the draft, when all the stars typically don't come in the first round, it's kind of a negative reinforcement for that position. So, scare you? I don't know if I can scare you as much as I would say look out for teams giving up a lot to get to the front of the draft for a quarterback, because a lot of them need them, and there's not a lot of starters in there this year.
100% right, man. Because again, I know it was Status Pro. I'm gonna get with Status Pro, but right now I'm still stuck on Madden, Hawk. And I'm telling you, when I'm playing the game, I'm like, yo, these quarterbacks are bad.
The ratings
it's only
ain't
Mahomes.
there, huh?
Yeah, it's only Mahomes, and it's only Lamar, and it's like everybody else is like, I'm like, come on, man.
It's the 32 highest paid positions in the sport are quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And it's wild because at any given time, in all of the world, there's only like 9 good ones.
Absolutely, man. I mean, we're staying on the field right fast. Most underrated free agency move, and one that you think is going to be very, very big, impactful in the season.
Okay, most underrated free agency move. I am going to say Russell Wilson to the Steelers. I think that is a match made in heaven. I think for what the Pittsburgh Steelers need and what Russ still has left in the tank, there's an opportunity, as we always say at Status Pro, is a 1 + 1 = 3 scenario. So don't be surprised if the Steelers are shocking a lot of people, and specifically Russell Wilson is playing some of the best ball we've seen him play in a couple years.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Getting off the field in some more serious matters, U.S. presidential race coming up. No picking sides. What do you want to see / hear from the candidates? You're a president, man. You're an entrepreneur, a former player. You have stake in this economy, Hawk. What do you want to hear from the candidates?
I mean, without going too deep into my political bag, I would say I feel like people want the candidates' yeses to be yeses and their nos to be nos. I think there's obviously a lot of waffling, and that is politics, and that is every time that there is a presidential election. But now you have the ability to kind of look back over the tenures of each of these presidents, and I think as you're making your decision, I would implore anybody watching to go look back at what was said prior to and truly look at what actually happened and let that guide your decision. I think if we did more of that and less of just, hey, I'm going to jump and do this because people tell me to, I think we would do a better job of picking the leaders of our free world.
Yeah. Drake versus everybody else. Who you got? No, I'm playing.
I got Drake. I'll go on record with that one.
You got Drake?
Team Drizzy all day.
Drake got a whole bunch of comments. This is Drake versus the world now,
hey, man.
There's a lot of people that he going up against, man.
20v1.
Yeah, well, listen, I'll end it on this, man. We're not going to end it on Drake. End it on good to great, man. I got 2 for you because you played 2 positions, right, at one point. What's the difference between a good wide receiver and a great one?
A good wide receiver works his butt off, but he does it till he gets it right. And a great wide receiver does it until he can't get it wrong.
Yeah. And what's the difference between a good cornerback, cornerback, and a great one? What you can't say everybody can be Deion. Deion is just everybody can't be Deion.
I think honestly, it is what you got in the DNA lottery. To be honest, I think the cornerback position is the hardest position to play in football because you have to guard the other most athletic person on the field going backwards. And in my experience, yes, every piece of your genetic makeup matters. But a lot of times the differentiator are things that there's not a single coach you can spend all day learning, and you ain't going to get it if your mom and dad didn't have it in their DNA pipeline to pass it down to you.
Yeah, that's why you see the great ones, man. They talk a lot, right? The Ramsey, Deion, because it's
easy to them. They woke up with it.
Absolutely, man.
Absolutely.
Hawk, thank you so much for the time, my brother. Again, congrats on the 20 million raise, man. Going to operationalize the business. I hope to see you for the Series B, right? And then get some price. Drake, you going to be an investor, right?
Yeah, Drake is an investor.
That's why you picked him.
Man,
that's why you did it. That's why you did it, man.
I know where my bread is buttered.
Appreciate it all the time, Hawk. I appreciate it, man. Status Pro here at the Nasdaq MarketSite. Thank you for watching.